This is how to make the Hackworth's editing thumbnail tutorial. First, you're going to go to the shape ellipse tool. Then you're going to put a blue oval right here. Then using the text tool, click here. And hold on, let me shrink this down with holding Alt and then just moving the mouse to make it shrink. Just change the color to a black for now. Then type this. And now we're going to change it back to white. And move it right here. And then shrink it. Now we're going to use another type of shape tool. This time it's the rectangle tool. Only this time we must turn it to the yellow. Then put the rectangle right here. Now we're going to do another type of text, but this time use a black text with, I'm going to call this a thumbnail tutorial. Now these layers right here, every time you type something and press enter, they will go from layer 1 to whatever you've typed, like thumbnail tutorial, for example. I'm going to use the words thumbnail and tutorial as an example of this episode, like it were the actual first episode. And now I'm going to bring up a random image. Hold on. This arrow, for example, I'm going to shrink it down. We're going to pretend that this is the... I'm going to straight up pretend that this is the thumbnail inside, and there we go. That's how you make the Hackworth's editing thumbnail. Bye. This is how to open or create a new project in Photoshop. First, what you're going to do is click on Windows, then click on your Adobe Photoshop icon. And as you can see here, these are 6 of my different projects that I've been messing around with. And what you want to do is either click on Open and then find a different project, like this one, for example, and you'll go here. Or you can just do Create New, and you'll be brought to this very page, which shows different canvas sizes. Like on my recent ones, I've done very random ones, for example. And I want to show you the
other side.
Click here on this section right here called Preset Details. For example, I'm going to name this New Project Time. And you can also mess around with the width and the height. For example, I want to do 500 and 1000 at a resolution of 100. You make sure you want to do pixels and pixels per inch, RGB color, and whatever bit you'd like. But let's mess around with the background contents. If it's white, then we get a white background like this. If it's black, we get a background like this. If it's like a background color, it probably does the same thing, except it is a background right there. If it's transparent, we get this white square, gray square, checkerboard-like thing. And it probably has no color on it technically, but that'll count. Finally, if we do custom, we get this color scheme called a color picker. You can actually move around with the colors to determine what it is, either with this square, or it's this vertical bar, and then doing the square again. I'm going to choose blue, for example, and then the background is blue, but we're mainly going to do white. Now let's see what the different
canvas sizes
are. Let's try photo first. These are photos like landscapes and portraits. For example, I'm going to do portrait on this level, width 5, height 7, resolution
300.
And this is the portrait. And landscape, for example, brings you here. Now we're going to go on print, for example. It can either be letter or A5, A3, but we're going to do letter for now. And these are the settings. And this is the letter form. Create new, we have art and illustration. You can either have a 1000 pixel grid, a 2000 pixel grid, poster, postcard, 1080p, or 720p. I'm going to do a poster, and it's right here. Create new again. We want to do web this time, either web's most common. I want to do web's most common, for example. And this is what it looks like. It's now you see this says Artboard 1. I'm not sure, it's kind of blurry if you can't see. It says Artboard 1. This is pretty kind of different from Canvas if I had to remember. Now we have mobile. You can do it in the format, in the canvas size of like an iPhone, for example, Android 1080p. And this is what it shows. We see Artboard 1 again. And finally, for film and video, this time it's in the canvas size of like an internet video, for example. Like I want to do HDV 1080p. Oops. Oh, yeah, there it is. And you see these blue lines, they help try and balance like whether you want to do a widescreen on them. With all of these
Canvas
sizes and ways to open a new project, I believe that's how you do it. Bye. This is how to open a project or create a new project in Adobe Premiere Pro. First, click on Windows, then begin to open up Adobe Premiere Pro. Wait for it to load. Now what you see here is the front page. It'll probably start off empty of any projects on your computer, but for me, given my experience, I've been messing around a lot. Now let's start with the new project first. Click on New Project, and then name your project. I'm going to name this New Project Time Premiere Edition. This is the location point, and this is what happens if you're let's see on this part, for example, then browse. This is an example of where you would like to go. You don't have to put it anywhere here. You could just put it on like either the documents or the videos or pictures, for example, but I'll select the folder. You can choose a different one if you'd like. Click OK now, and you'll be brought here. First, we have the timeline, which has no sequences yet. We see text saying drop media here to create sequence, or import media to start. I'm just going to drop down an example, a 60 frames per second example. This one. And we can either place the video on the import media to start, and then click and drag it from the import media or the project section and drop it on the media here, or you can just undo, or you could just do this. I also want to show you the timeline. This is this thing right here is called a timeline. It's blue. You can either just move it around and scrub it around, or just press space and then it'll just play by itself. And you see this scroll thing, you can either move it to the left or right like this, or just zoom out like this, or zoom in like this. But that's what I wanted to get out of the way. So I wish to save it just in case. Open up again for the open project part. Now, what happens when you click Open Project? You'll be brought to here. A project I want to open up for an example is like midline elevator with right odd versus round winners, which is a reference to a video on my Mr. Hackworth channel. But once you've clicked on this, for example, click Open, and you'll be brought here, for example. This is what happens in the nested sequence. But anyway, I just wanted to show you how to create a new project and then open it. Bye. This is how to use the brush tool in Photoshop. You see this paintbrush right here? That's the brush tool. You want to click on here, then move the mouse here. The first thing you're going to do is click, for example, here. You'll get a dot. And for example, here. That's not all of how the brush tool works. I want to undo and move the mouse while holding it down. That's an extension of the brush tool. And if you want to go straight, for example, vertical, hold Shift, then move it down like this or up like this. And then horizontally, hold down the Shift key and then move it like this. And if you want to change the color, you can either click here on the foreground color, then change the color to blue, for example, click OK, and then you can actually mess around with that color, or you could just use the swatch tool where it switches the colors like this. As you're drawing things on the board, notice how the background has equally as much of a drawing as the front page of the Photoshop board. Another thing you can do, click on this section right here to open the brush preset picker. You can actually change the size to a big one, a small one, or a normal sized one. You can also change the hardness to make it look in the harder half or the softer half, like it were blurry. There are also a multitude of choices to choose from for the paint tool, like this one, for example. And we have these sections called general brushes. I'm going to pick an example like this one. Dry media brushes like this one, for example. Wet media brushes like this one, for example. And special effects brushes like this one, for example. You can use the brush tool to paint whatever you'd like. Bye. This is how to use the razor tool in Premiere Pro. You see this razor thing? That's called the razor tool. Click on it, or you can press C to select it. We're going to use the man being shot from Canon archival footage, for example. In order to use the razor tool on this click, we're going to go ahead and click here, like on a random point. And what this does, we're going to use the selection tool to move the clip here, and it actually split the single clip into 2 clips. And let's say I want to do 1 cut per shot. Let's be careful about this. And now you can mess around with these shots of this video however you like. For example, from like shortest to longest, or longest to shortest. And this is how it goes. This is how it goes for longest to shortest. But yeah, that's just a basic example of how to use the razor tool. Bye. This is how to use the Marquee tool in Photoshop. First, you're going to grab an image like this one, for example. Then right-click on this layer of the image, then click Rasterize Layer, and go to this section called the Marquee tool section with the rectangular and the elliptical. First, the rectangular. You're going to click and hold down the mouse, then move the mouse wherever you like while holding down, and then let go, let's say here, for example. Now you see those dashed lines, what do they do? Well, hold down Control, then press C for copy, and then while holding down Control again, press V, then use the Move tool to click and hold on whatever you just copied out, and then you get a rectangle right here. Press Undo, go back to the dashed lines, and then you can press Backspace. It will show an empty space. Using the rectangular Marquee tool again, you could just hold down Shift, and while the dashed lines are there, make another rectangle, press copy and paste, and then you'll get the same rectangle except there's an extra growth spurt on it. The same can go for the elliptical Marquee tool. Like for example here, copy and paste, move this around, undo, press backspace for the empty space, go back to the circular elliptical Marquee tool, then make another oval, and this is what you got, like a mushroom. Now let's try to make a shape with the rectangular and the elliptical Marquee tool simultaneously. Let's do this, this, and this. And it looks like a wagon. And you can use the Marquee tools however you like. Bye. This is how to use effect controls for a video file on Adobe Premiere Pro. We're going to use this footage of flowers and a bee, for example. We'll start off with position. With position, you can either click and hold onto the video and just move the mouse around like this, or click and hold the mouse on either of the numbered position numbers and just move the mouse up and down to make it move like this, or you could just type in the numbers, type in different numbers. For scale, click and hold onto the scale number and just move the mouse up and down to differentiate the size. You see uniform scale. We're going to uncheck this. Now what does this do? We have scale height and scale width. Click and hold scale height like this, and scale width for a different effect. Now we have rotation. You can either move closely to the video like this, you'll get this double arrow, click and hold and you'll get this rotating thing, or you could just use the mouse to hold on to here and just move around with the rotation like this. Anchor point, if you move right like this or this, it's like the position, except the vector point right here doesn't move with the image. Here's what it does to the rotation and the size or scale. Now we cut to opacity. We'll start with the obvious one. The 100% right here, like the position and scale, move it up and down like this to mess around with the opacity, the highest being the most visible and the lowest being the most invisible. Oh yeah, and I want to show you, I want to copy and paste one of the two to show what I mean. You can also mess around with the blending modes. For example, darken goes there, overlay, hard light, lighter color, color, and divide. Those are just examples. And not to mention we also have our masking options like create ellipse mask. Now what did this do? It created this oval thing called an ellipse mask. Move the oval like this, hold on to one of the tiny squares like this. Move, click and hold and scroll the mask feather, or the mask opacity, or the mask expansion, and just invert it. The same goes for the square version. And not to mention, you can actually click right here, you can make a tiny square, and here. Now this one is free draw Bezier, which is another type of masking where you can actually make your own shape like this. I'm doing the same thing as the ellipse and the square mask tool. Now I'm very curious about time remapping, or the speed of the video. I want to test this out first, hold on. Now this actually, once you hold on to this, when you hold on to this line, this one messes around with the speed of a video. And that's all I want to show about how to mess around with
effect controls
for this. Bye.
This is how to use text in Photoshop. First, you want to click on here. We're going to use the horizontal type tool for now. It's also called the text tool or type tool, whatever. Now, click here, for example. It'll show like lorem ipsum, but I want to change it just by typing it in a different way, like TEXT for text. If you click and hold on the word and just move around like this, and while holding down the mouse, it'll move around and highlight whatever letter it desires. If you want to actually move the text freely, click on the mover tool, then click and hold on to the word, and you can do this. You can also change the size of the text by holding down Alt and clicking hold on the word, and then it'll enlarge the text. If you want to change the color, go to the type tool, then highlight this whole thing, click on the color swatch, and change it to blue, for example. I know this looks orange at first, but once you click off, it's blue. You can also change the font. For example, before we do the font, I want to go up to this section You can either make the text look narrow, regular, bold, or black. But for now, I'm going to do regular. And as for the actual fonts, I'm going to go with, let's say, Century School Book, Chiller, Algerian, Agency FB, and Broadway. But for now, I'm going to do, once again, Arial. And the same can also be applied for the vertical type tool, which goes like this, T-E-X-T. Now let's go to this section to see how this one works. We're going to click here and scroll. This one moves around the size. This one doesn't do anything on the horizontal end, but let's try it on the, I want to do it on the vertical text. Doesn't work either. Anyway, let's try on the metrics to see what that does. Doesn't appear to do anything yet, but let's try VA. This one, however, moves the letters away from each other. And does the same apply to the vertical text? Yes, it does. Now I've added a space and an RT on the right of the word text in horizontal form. If you want to change the spacing of like a paragraph or a word or a phrase, you want to change it like this. And this is what happens. Then the middle version this happens. And as for the right paragraph, this happens. And that's all the information about text that I wanted to get out. Bye. This is how to use the type tool in Premiere Pro. I'm only going to go over this as quickly as I can this time. You see this here? This is the type tool. We're going to use it now. Then click here. I'll type in text and open up this. You can highlight either with the mouse or Control A to select all. You can change it with fonts such as Arial, Bandschrift, Bodoni MT, Cambria, and Freestyle Script. I'm going to select Arial for now. For Arial, for the text, we have narrow, regular, bold, and black. I'm going to do bold for now. With this selected, you can also change the size by sliding this. This text is currently on the left aligned text. Selecting center aligned text will make it do this if you're changing with the size. And for right aligned text, it does this. We'll select it again to see what this VA double arrow thing does. It distances the letters away from each other. You know how you can also position the text by moving or scrolling down the numbers like this? The capital A, lowercase a arrow thing is a version of the position, but the section is in a different location. And here you can change it to faux bold, faux italic, all caps, small caps, superscript, subscript, and underline. You can fill it with any color you like to, such as red. As for stroke, I'll choose blue and increase the size like this. As for background, I don't know what to choose for background. I'm going to say yellow to see what that does. Yep, we have a background color. And you can change the opacity and size and round the edges if you'd like. And for shadow, I'm going to do green and increase the distance and the size. And mask with text, I don't know what that does. But we do know that there's a text mask right here. The same goes for the vertical type tool, like this. And that's all I wanted to show you for the text in Premiere Pro. Bye. This is how to use the eraser tool in Photoshop. The background is red for a special reason we'll get to later in the video. You see this? This is the eraser tool. I want you to click here and go here. Click on this layer to make sure you're on the right thing. Click on any of the black symbols. You'll notice a dot here. That means it is erased. Another thing you can do with the regular eraser tool is click and hold and move the mouse. You're erasing even more. If you want to erase an even tinier piece, shrink down the size like this and click and hold right here and move the mouse. You'll get this. If you want to erase the whole thing, you can either click on the layer and press backspace, or you could just increase the size to the max and then click and it'll be gone. If you want to erase in a perfect line, you can just hold shift and this will happen. Going horizontally, hold shift again, and this happens. Going horizontally, hold shift again, and this happens. The next eraser is the background eraser. Now click on the background layer, and then do you see the transparent background behind the partially erased red background? That's what the background eraser does. If you're still not convinced, I'll size up the eraser tool to the max again and click. Oh, wait a minute. This is removing a lot of the portions like the paint bucket tool. Finally, we have the magic eraser tool. And click on any of the black symbols, it does this. Oh, that was just the background, sorry. Click on this layer, then click on any of the black symbols, it does this. And I think that is all for the eraser tool. Bye. This is how to use the volume level in
Premiere Pro.
But first, I have to play this audio clip to give you an idea of what we're getting into. Now, you see this right here? This is the volume. The dB stands for decibels. First, we're going to click and hold into this thing and scroll the mouse down to make the volume lower, and this is what it does. Now we're going to go the opposite direction and click and hold on the number and move the mouse up to make it louder, like this. Click on the reset parameter to reset the volume back to normal level. And you see this thing, this diamond thing that I moved? That would have to be called I'm going to call this thing a volume point. Now, I want you to move the timeline right here and the diamond right here. Move this one to a different location. Then click and hold the mouse here, move it down or up, whichever you want. For me, I'm going to go up for like this, for example. This is what it does. In case you didn't get it, it just raised the volume as it progressed on. I'm just going to mess around with the volume to give you an idea of what else is there. And this is how it goes. These lines represent the volume direction. And that's probably all I want to show you for volume. Bye. This is how to use the Lasso tool in Photoshop. Before we get into this lesson, make sure you want to right-click on these two layers and click Rasterize Layer. You see this? This is the Lasso tool. We'll get into the polygonal lasso tool later. For now, click the regular lasso tool, then click on the red layer, then click and hold the mouse and move it around like this. We'll make a rough circle. While holding Control, press C for copy and V for paste. Now click on the eye to remove the regular red, and we have made a shape to copy and paste it out. But there's actually an opposite way. Let's undo to the point where we've drawn the rough circle, only this time press backspace, and we've got its empty counterpart. Now we want to make a more difficult shape this time. Let's say for a zigzag, I want to make this. I'll keep on drawing like this. And copy and paste, and you've gotten a zigzag. And you see this up here, feather 0 pixels. Now highlight the 0 and change the number to 15, for example. Now let's make a square this time. Copy and paste. The increasing of the pixels in the feather section causes the edges to be more blurry. I'm going to change the feather pixels to 10. Now let's use the polygonal lasso tool. This one looks less drawn in comparison. It does this. If you click on it the first time, move it around, it'll make this line thing, but keep going with this. Make a different diamond. Only this time, the edges are a lot more perfect. Now we want to experiment with this image of bold and brash. Now, we can't use the regular lasso tool in a way where you have to draw like this. It's going to make it a bit more messy. So I'm going to use the polygonal lasso tool, and you just watch as I do the process. Now that I've done bold and brash in full, hold Control, copy, and paste. Oops. Now that I've done bold and brash in full, hold Control, copy, and paste. And you've got yourself the bold and brash, but without the background. And that's pretty much all I wanted to show you. Bye. This is how to use the speed and duration tool in Premiere Pro. Before we do this, I'm going to play this clip all the way through to give you an idea what we're getting into. That's just a portion of the video that I made. Now, to get this speed and duration, you can either remain clicked on the video file, like this, click on clip, and click on speed duration, or right-click on the clip and click speed and duration,
or just use the command Control R. Now you see here we have speed and duration. To mess with speed, you can either click and hold and then move the mouse around like this to change the speed, or you could just click on the number and change it to whatever you'd like. For example, let's say 75. Now what this did is change duration. It was originally 20 seconds, and now it is 26 seconds and 40 frames. What this did was slow down the music in the background. And as for the opposite, we're going a bit faster. This one went from 20 seconds to 16 seconds. Now you want to click reverse speed, and what does that do? Reversing the clip not only plays the video in reverse, but the audio in reverse. And then we have maintain audio pitch. Check that here. And what does it do? This one's at the same speed, but it's at normal pitch. Now I want to do this. You must use the razor tool to cut here, and then go back to speed and duration, check ripple edit shifting trailing clips, then use the speed right here, and what does this do? The first clip has altered its speed while staying connected to the second clip. Did you hear it? Let me alter the speed on this one. Let me add one more thing to this. This is the same 20-second clip, but edited in a way with all the tactics of the speed duration section. So that's all I want to show you. Bye. This is how to use the clone stamp tool in Photoshop. First, we need to rasterize all of these layers. You see this? This is the clone stamp tool. We're going to use this for now. And what does this do? We're going to take this image of a letter C. Now move here, for example, hold down Alt, then click on this position, and then we took this position and we'll place it right here and move the mouse like this if you want to do more. This is a strange tool. Let's try a different image this time. For example, the flag of Philadelphia. Let's say that I want to remove the symbol in the yellow column of the Philadelphia flag. So I'm going to go here, hold Alt, click, and go here. But first we need to decrease the hardness and just spread the yellow as much as you can. And there we go, we have the Philadelphia flag but without the symbol. Now we want to try this Getty's image of a skeleton holding an egg and remove the Getty Images part. I'm just going to do this without even verbally explaining what it is. Now we have the skeleton holding the egg, but without the words or the getting images thing bothering it. Now I want to try the Android logo. And this is the best I could do with using the clone stamp tool on the Android mask. And for the finale, we'll use an image of a hand holding the Alt key. So that's the best I could do for the clone stamp tool. Bye.
This is how to nest in Premiere Pro. To use the nesting, you must click on this clip, for example, and either click on Clip, then click Nest, or you just right-click on the clip and then click Nest. You'll be brought to Nested Sequence Name. You can either leave the name as is, or you could just name it something else. For example, name this Ocean. Click Enter or click OK. And what this does is turns the clip from blue to green or another color to green. Now I want to try something different for nesting. Now I want you to right-click on the clip, then click Unlink, move either the video clip or the audio clip slightly away from each other like this, but not too far away, and then click Nest again, and then click OK. That will extend the clip. And then you want to do this. Use the razor tool to cut here, then move the second portion of the clip here, and then you can nest again. It'll also extend the clip, but in a different way. Or you can do this, just move the clip up here, and then nest. It doesn't look nested until go here, that's called Nested Sequence 41. This one's also called Nested Sequence 41. It'll change the duration of the original clip, but it does the opposite, getting shorter. And that's all I quickly wanted to show you about nesting. Bye. This is how to use the zoom tool in Photoshop. Here we have this magnifying glass, but I want to show you this original way of zooming first. You want to hold down the Control key, then while holding down Control, you can either repeatedly press minus to zoom out or plus to zoom in. Let's zoom all the way in. You'll be able to see the pixels a lot closer this time. Let's zoom out again. Now to get to the magnifying glass part, it's right here. Now to use the magnifying glass, you can either set your magnifying glass to the one with the plus in it, click here and it zooms in, or click on the magnifying glass with the minus in it and click like this, it'll zoom out. So that's all I wanted to say for the zoom tool. Bye. This is a demonstration of all 16 color labels in Premiere Pro for a picture file. First, you're going to take this image, then extend it like this to use the mouse. Use the razor tool to chop this into 16 pieces. I'll count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now check the info, and it's 16 pieces. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, right-click on the first clip, then go to Label. You see here we have this group of labels. The default is set to lavender for the images. Now, click on Violet, and you see the color has changed from lavender to violet. The second one changed to Iris. Third, Caribbean. The fourth one is the default lavender, so I'll leave it at that. Next, the fifth, Cerulean. The sixth, Forest. 7, Rose. 8, Mango. 9, Purple. 10, Blue. 11, Teal. 12, Magenta. 13, Tan. 14, Green. 15, Brown. And 16, Yellow. And these are all 16 label colors for either a picture file or a video file.
If you drop down a video file in Premiere Pro, the default color will be blue instead of lavender. Like which blue color? I think it's similar to the fifth one. But anyway, that's what I want to show for the label colors. Bye. This is how to export a project in Photoshop. To export, you must either click File, then move to Export, and click Export As, or hit the command Alt-Shift-Control-W. Now there are different ways to export a project. First we have PNG, click Export, then you want to name your project, I want to call this thing Finished PNG. The second way, you see this background layer, click the eye, and it'll be a transparent image. Alt-Shift-Control-W. Then we have, I'm going to call this Finished PNG Transparent. The next way to go is JPEG. I'm going to call this JPEG. Then there's GIF. And finally, SVG. Let's take a look at the results, shall we? If only I could find the, let's say, I do have let's see, there is SVG. We have finished GIF version, JPEG, PNG transparent version, PNG regular version, and the SVG file seems to be corrupted, but that's all I want to share for exporting a project in Photoshop. Bye. But that's all I want to share for exporting a project in Photoshop. Bye. This is how to export a project in Premiere Pro. This will be my final tutorial for now because I have busier stuff to do. To export here, click File, move your mouse to Export, and then click Media, or hit the command Control-M. And this timeline will be showing your full video project. Remember to export video, export audio, leave them checked, and I usually like to go with H.264. There are other options available like AVI, H.264, Blu-ray, JPEG, but we're doing a video file, so leave it here. Then click Export down here, export immediately with the current settings. And this is running the required audio files and encoding the project. It's usually spelt like 12 et imopers inu igor because the original file was 60 FPS and I usually like to start with it due to its 60 FPS. We have the estimated remaining time. The blue bar is rising. Your video was exported successfully. Then type the video and you'll find it right here. I'm going to rename this to Hackworth's Editing exporting images Photoshop Monday. I will be uploading this video to YouTube later. That's all I want to share for exporting in Premiere Pro, and that's all I want to share, period, for now. Bye.